Okay, Root Source students, this is Bob, and we've been interviewing Avi for about Islam and various topics. But I wanted to ask a question just for his special students, of which you are, because you're getting this particular video, about Jesus. I heard you say something fascinating once about Jesus. You said that you believed that if Jesus were to have come today, as if he's coming, we believe coming twice, but if his first visit was today, that he would probably have been a conservative Jew. Can you define what is a conservative Jew, and then tell us how that would fit with Jesus? Why?
Okay. Now, firstly, I have to issue a disclaimer.
Okay.
And the disclaimer is that I grew up in the conservative movement 50 years ago in the United States.
You're talking about Jewish conservative synagogue movement.
Yes.
Okay.
Or in Hebrew, with the Masorti movement.
Which is not a politically conservative movement.
Exactly.
It's something very different. Okay.
Exactly. Judaism 50 years ago was comprised of Orthodox Jews, the different trends in Orthodoxy, conservative and Reform. Now, basically, the conservative were a breakaway from the Reform. The Reform went to the extreme of basically getting rid of a lot of the traditions and rituals of the Orthodox. And they branched off into a revolutionary new world of humanism and universalism. So the conservatives came out of Reform and said, you know what, we're going to conserve a lot of the Orthodox traditions,
yes,
but we will keep our minds open to the universal values. And in those days, as a young man, the conservative Judaism basically meant that it would be only male rabbis, which is very Orthodox. Men and women would sit together. That's how I grew up. Which of course arouses the ire of the Orthodox.
Okay.
But the ritual is the same, the songs are the same, and that's how I grew up. When I went to the Conservative Movement Seminary here in Jerusalem 25 years ago, then they said to me, we're going to have women rabbis. I said, well, it could be, but in Israel it's not going to work because Israel is a very conservative country politically, and women rabbis are not popular in Israel. They're popular in the U.S., but they're not popular.
Okay.
Even in the U.S., it's a problem also, but anyway. And then they asked me, what do you think about homosexual ordination? And I said, listen, my brother is gay, but he cannot be a rabbi. I love my brother. He's gay. I still love him. I forgive him. I love him. Okay. But to be a rabbi, you have to follow the book known as the Bible, which says that that's not cool to be gay. Understatement. Okay. Now, when I went to seminary, and you have to remember, my MA at seminary started out based on what I had studied in my BA, which is not Judaism. My BA was in Sovietology and Russian studies.
Yes.
Now, if you know Russian, you know that 40% of Russian is Greek. And I'm in seminary, and we're studying texts from, 2,000 years ago. Texts in which Jesus is talking also. The rabbis are talking also, and my teachers share with me that there are 4,000 Greek and Latin words in the Talmud and in the rabbinic texts of that time. And to understand 4,000 words, you have to learn Greek and Latin. Our rabbis 2,000 years ago knew Greek and Latin. To know Greek and Latin, you have to know Greek and Latin culture, because the Romans and the Greeks controlled the Middle East at that time. Now, today in Israel, we have rabbis. I won't mention their names, but they are top leaders in the rabbinic world. Say, you may not study Greek, you may not study Latin, you may not study English, you may not study French, you may not study any languages other than Hebrew and Aramaic. You go to the yeshiva, you're going to learn only the holy languages.
Right.
Which means basically you come out with a one-dimensional viewpoint. Now, Jesus teaches, and I'm going to give you a few examples because I know we don't have too much time. Jesus says, for example, let your yea be yea and let your nay be nay.
Yes.
In other words, don't be wishy-washy and changing your words and everything. Now, what did the Greeks say about that? What the Greeks said like this. One of the greatest, there's a word arete or areti. Arete, depending on modern or ancient Greek pronunciation, means perfection.
Okay.
One of the ideas of perfection in those days was to be an athlete, to be a warrior, to be beautiful.
Yes, physically beautiful, yeah.
But as the Greek culture continued to develop, it was to become a rhetor. A rhetor means somebody who speaks in rhetoric.
Okay, okay.
Meaning a lawyer.
Okay.
And there's a story that, again, it takes a few minutes, but I got to explain this. There's a story about a civil war taking place between two Greek city-states in 163 BC. And they come to the Romans. Rome was in its ascendancy at the time. And they want their arbitration. And so they brought in one of their great orators by name of, I can't remember his name right now. And he comes to Rome and he gives a lecture about why Rome should control the world. It's called Pax Romana. Everyone applauds.
Sure.
It was fantastic. The next day, he says, I'm going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to give you another lecture. He comes back and says, I'm going to give you now a lecture why Rome should never be the world ruler. And everybody applauded. And he convinced them on that too. So Cato, the elder, who was the leader of Rome at the time, expels him from Rome, says, this guy is confusing our young people. Let your yea be yea, let your nay be nay.
Yeah.
Because being a lawyer and making yes, no, and no, yes was part of the art of being perfect. But Jesus didn't like that nonsense.
Right.
Jesus didn't like lawyers. Okay? So this is very, very much in Jewish thinking as well. Okay. Another thing. Jesus says, for example, the man is the Lord of the Sabbath and not the Sabbath the Lord of man.
Yes.
Okay? And
so Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath.
Right.
Yes.
In other words, Sabbath basically, and this is my approach, is a gift to the Jewish people from God, which shows that we are not slaves to Pharaoh anymore. Why? A slave has no Sabbath. And in our blessings Friday night, when we break bread and drink our wine, we say we thank God for taking us out of slavery and giving us that day of rest that the slaves don't have.
Yes.
Shows we're not slaves anymore. But the point is this, the Sabbath becomes so stringent with so many rules. And in the last 150 years, with the invention of electricity, for me personally, putting on a light switch does not work. The idea of putting on a light switch is considered work because you're completing an electrical circuit, which means you're basically igniting a fire and you're not allowed to ignite fire. Now, what is it? Again, a word I used before, pshat. Pshat means, let's look at the simple reading of the Bible. Why does it say in the Bible we shall not light fire?
We should not make fire, or light, is it light? Yeah,
yes,
light fire.
We should not have fire on the Sabbath. Because in those days, first you had to go chop wood.
Yeah.
Then you had to rub 2 sticks. That's work. Yeah. Then you had to build a fire, tend the fire, keep adding more wood. I mean, having a fire in your house all day, you see the fireplace here. Yeah. I mean, it's a pleasure for us. During Shabbat, we don't light it. Yeah. But we do flick the switch and put on the heater. Because you're not rubbing sticks and cutting wood. So my viewpoint is to reinterpret these laws about the Sabbath in a way that makes the religion easier. Jesus wanted to make the religion easier, and I think this is one of the purposes of the Masorti conservative movement. I'm not a spokesman for them,
right?
But I'm kind of independent in my way of thinking. There are many other things also. Jesus was very much against divorce. Divorce was considered adultery. In that sense, he was actually
more strict,
much stricter. Yeah, but you have this debate between Hillel and Shammai. And Shammai was the strict one, but in this case, Jesus was Shammai.
I get it now. So you're saying that he wanted to make Judaism easier in some sense, although he certainly didn't deviate at all morally.
Right. Well, he didn't have electricity in those days.
Yeah.
But
in moral matters, he was very strong.
Very strict.
But he wanted to see people have reasonable freedom he healed on the Sabbath.
You know what? Let me tell you a little story. It got me into a lot of trouble in seminary. I'm always getting into trouble in seminary. You know, in the New Testament it says, if you look at a woman to lust after her,
Yes.
Better that you poke your eye out and send your eye to hell rather than all of you going to hell. Because if you look at a woman to lust after her, you've committed adultery.
Yes.
So we have in the Ethics of the Fathers, chapter 1, verse 5, a verse that got me into so much trouble. It says, it's a very long verse,
Yes,
and I'm paraphrasing it. It says, let your house be open to all, especially the poor, and bless the people. I mean,
Sure.
it's a long list. And it says, and don't talk much to the woman. And because it says, if you talk much to the woman, you cause yourself harm, you stop studying the Torah, and you inherit hell. Okay, if you talk to the woman.
Yes.
And I was in seminary. There was this very sweet girl. I loved her so much. Rest in peace. You know, she died. Anyway, she got very angry. Her feathers were very ruffled. She says, "What's the matter with women? That if men talk to us, they go to hell and everything like that." And so, you know, everybody looked at each other. And it's a seminary, you know, men and women studying in seminary. I said, it's so simple. I said, in the New Testament, I just said in the New Testament, everybody went, oh no, here he goes with the New Testament again. I said, Jesus, oh, he's talking about Jesus again. He says, if you look at a woman to lust after her, you go to hell.
Yeah.
And the rabbis are saying exactly the same thing in a slightly different verbiage. If you talk to a woman, you go to hell. Now, there's a rabbi, I won't mention his name.
In other words, perhaps, this is meaning, your interpretation of the Talmud is, don't establish an emotional connection with a woman who is not your...
Well, no. I'm sorry. I'm going further now.
Okay.
There's a rabbi, I won't mention his name. I love the rabbi very much. He's a famous rabbi. A lot of your people know the name. I won't mention it. Now, I was spending Shabbat in his home. And he said, Avi, tell me, what do you think about the idea that, you know, when young kids grow up and they spend too much time in the presence of females, and eventually they become effeminate and they become homosexual. I said, Rabbi, it has nothing to do with homosexual. It's about lust. It's about adultery. Because it says if you talk much to the woman, that means your wife. Don't even talk to your wife too much because she's going to take you away from studying Torah. So they come up with all these. I said, no, it's about sex. Extramarital sex. Stay away from it. It's about lust. You go to hell. And the rabbi got so angry when I said Jesus in the New Testament. And he wouldn't talk to me for 10 years. Now he talks to me. We're friends again. But I'm just saying, I mean, you look at the Ethics of the Fathers, and I recommend to all of you to get a copy of the Orthodox or Conservative Prayer Book. The Saturday afternoon service has the 6 chapters of Jewish philosophy. You read it, and you identify everything there that Jesus said these things. That's why I think that Jesus was a conservative rabbi. And I don't say it to mock Christians. I'm saying, on the contrary, I identify with that.
Well, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your candor in all of these things. We've learned so much from you on this channel, and you know, we'll send us your emails, and we'll try to squeeze a few questions into Avi. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time. Bye bye.